All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome along to this week's coaches chat. Today, you're going to be looking at Triathlete's Guide to Enhancing Open Water Swim Performance. Thanks for the suggestion, James. This is a great topic, and it's nice and early in the season as well, so that all those naysayers that are like, who's going to go swimming in the middle of winter? It applies to Corin in North America at the moment as well, although their lake is closed. So let's get into it. So we're looking at um, discovering some of the key techniques and skills we can utilize within our training sessions to become more efficient, faster, smarter, and more confident on race day. We're going to be looking at some of the differences between open water and pool swimming, building endurance and swim specific fitness, looking at some of the skills of open water swimming, some race specific sessions that we can include to simulate race environment in the open water, and also optimizing our technique and breathing for open water. It is a little bit different, but not too dissimilar to pool swimming. So having a look at some of the differences jumping ahead, between open water and pool swimming. Obviously the pool, the distance is nice and consistent. That does not change as we swim. Everything's nice and consistent. A 25-meter pool in Hamilton is a 25-meter pool, same as it is in Christchurch or in North America, although they tend to be 25-yard pools over there. But the 25-yard pools are still 25 yards. Open water swimming, every lake, ocean, river is different. There's currents, there's tides, there's waves, and those waves can be different from 1 hour to the next. And there's sunlight, wind, all sorts of other environmental considerations that impact your ability to swim in straight lines, swim at a comfortable pace, challenge you a number of different ways. Most pools, the water temperature is about the 28 degrees Celsius. My maths ain't that good, so Corin, when you're watching this in the future, my apologies, I'm not converting that to Fahrenheit, but I think it's around 75-ish. Now, swimming pools, they're full of chlorine. Any biological organism, bacteria that gets in there, the chlorine will kill it, and we're relatively healthy or able to swim comfortably without picking up bugs in those environments. Unfortunately, particularly around urban areas, when there's been a bit of rain, that rainwater washes off into lakes and rivers and increases the amount of bacteria in the water. Those biological organisms can have an impact on our health when swimming in them. So often, particularly in New Zealand, councils will close beaches, lakes and rivers for swimming for our safety. Now, there's other biological creatures, sharks, fishes, etc., that we don't tend to dwell on, but some people do overthink it. Those sort of creatures, they tend to see a human in the water and avoid them for obvious reasons. One of my best, well, one of the most unique races was in Wellington a few years ago. When I was swimming 3 laps for 1,500 meters in Scorching Bay, we weren't aware of the orcas just a little bit further out. And then once we were out on the bike, they swam right into the shore and gave all the spectators spent more time watching the orcas than they did caring about what else was happening in the event. It was interesting finding that out afterwards. A lot of us wouldn't have gone out if we were aware they were there. But the key thing is, they swam away again. They weren't worried about the humans around. They came in for a bit of a nosy afterwards, though. So most creatures in the water will avoid us. Some that can't and won't are jellyfish. They just float around. If you end up in their space, you end up in their space. There are some jellyfish that can cause issues. A large number that float around in the New Zealand waters during our summer, they are harmless. If they've got big, long blue tentacles hanging off them, avoid them. Keep well clear of them. And if you do see them floating around or on the beach, I recommend not going for a swim in the open water that day. How do we build our endurance and swimming specific fitness? Now, there's different aspects to open water and pool-based training. In the pool, it's a fantastic environment for building our fitness, particularly our aerobic fitness and our ability to sustain a higher pace, our threshold swimming. It's also a great opportunity to do sprint training and develop that high end speed. Training in the open water builds a lot of skills. Particularly, we can work on entering and exiting the water, turning around buoys or buoys if we use our North American accent, and also focusing on our breathing. In the open water, in different environments and conditions, it might not be feasible to breathe only on the left-hand side if that is what you normally do. The waves might be coming from the left-hand side, or the sunlight might be low and bright and you can't really see much. So having the ability to breathe on both sides is an important skill. And that's something you can also practice in both the open water and the pool. Open water skills. Now, there's some specific skills, and I'll break them into two categories. There's the gross skills that we utilize, and then there's the tactical skills that enhance your ability to get from point A to point B better. So our gross skills are the key things, getting into and out of the water. Now, you can run into the water until you trip over it and then start swimming, or you can run with high knees, lifting the legs out to the side of the body. Think Baywatch style. Surf lifesavers are really skilled at this, and you can get further out into the water. You're getting deeper into the water, and then start dolphin diving through the water to get that distance. Now, a lot of people think dolphin diving is a bit like doing butterfly in the pool. It's not. You dive down to the bottom of the water and then push off the bottom, exiting up through the water and then diving down again. If it's sandy, dig your hands into the water, get a good grip. Dig your hands into the water, dig your hands into the sand, get a good grip on the base, and then use those legs explosively to push you up out of the water. Turning around the buoys, there's two different ways. One is to get to the buoy and just turn around it each stroke, moving a little bit more. Or the quickest way is actually to swim straight up to it, roll on or roll towards the buoy, and do one stroke backstroke and then roll again towards the buoy, and you'll find that magically you turn through a 90-degree turn without any thought or thought. You do need to think about it as you come in. If the buoy's on your left hand, you take your last stroke with your left hand, roll on one stroke with the right hand, and then roll again with the left. But you magically get through this 90-degree turn without any conscious effort to as opposed to swimming up and turning a little bit, turning a little bit, turning a little bit. But that's something you do need to practice. Breathing is also, we've touched on that a couple of slides ago. Focus on that breathing and the ability to breathe bilaterally on both the left and right hand sides, so that if for some reason you can't breathe comfortably on the left side, you can breathe on the right side and get that air nice and easily, and vice versa. The tactical skills to improve your ability to get from point A to point B, the sighting and the navigation. Now, if you swim along with your head up and swimming along, you'll find that your body position sinks down in the water and you become like a barge through the water. So it's important that when you are sighting, you just take a wee glance and confirm that you're traveling in the right direction. If you swim a long distance between taking a sight, then you're either going to drift off, and it's going to take multiple attempts to make sure that you are swimming in the correct direction. So the secret with sighting is taking lots of short, quick sights constantly, doing it every half a dozen strokes. If you find yourself geographically challenged, then sight more frequently than that. And if you've got obvious markers, and an example being Ironman, every 100 meters through the swim course, you've got these large buoys that are nice and easy to spot from a distance, so you might not need to sight as frequently in those situations. So making sure that navigation is on by swimming those nice straight lines where possible. Drafting is the ability, or not necessarily the ability, but it's swimming nice and close in someone's slipstream as you're making your way through the course. Similar to cycling, except instead of in cycling, you're sheltering behind the other cyclist in their draft, getting out of the wind. In the water, the medium is a lot thicker, so you get a lot more benefit from drafting with in the water than you do cycling. So sticking in that slipstream is important. Now, there's two places you can be. You can be right on their feet, or you can be on their hip. And the closer into those positions you are, the better you're going to be, or the more advantageous it's going to be. How close is too close? If you're tapping their feet every stroke, they're going to get very annoyed very quickly, and their focus won't be on swimming. It'll be more on what this person behind them is doing, and not everyone in the open water environment appreciates that gentle tap. I have heard from people that are a little bit more further back in the field that it can be quite reassuring having that tap on the feet every 100 or so meters, so they know they're not alone and that they are working with someone. If you're going to do that, I'd recommend doing that with someone that you know already and have discussed it with beforehand, so it's not an annoyance to them. Yeah, that's some of the key skills there. And finally, some open water options. I do recommend breaking up the workout into the four phases, starting with a warm up and finishing with a cool down. Now, depending on where you're swimming, you might have some buoys that are already out there that can create a little wee course or a combination of buoys. Freiburg Beach in Wellington has got some 5 knot buoys laid out off it. And depending on whether it's a high tide or a low tide, the distance out to them is slightly different. But with 3 of them out there, you can swim out and do a large triangle by going around all 3 of them, or you can do a shorter out and back to one single buoy. On the other side, on Oriental Bay, you've also got the fountain, and you've got a couple of pontoons that are floating out there. And you can create a nice wee course between the 2 bays of 1,000 odd meters without coming up with, well, swimming around all of them. So depending on how long you want that warm up within your local environment, there may be something similar that can create options for you. So after the warm up, recommend getting into some skills, getting that heart rate up a little bit, practicing some entries and exits. Now, you don't need to swim all the way out to a buoy. You can just focus on getting into the water and then swimming 20 strokes. Count those strokes in your head. Make sure you continue breathing. Don't put all the focus on to the counting. And once you've done those 20 entries, gently swim back. Do half a dozen of them, and then practice half a dozen exits. A gentle swim out, and then you turn around and race back in as if it was the end of the swim. So you're wanting to swim all the way up to the shore. I recommend until you touch or can touch the ground 3 times. And on that 3rd time, you're going to be close enough to stand up and comfortably run up onto the beach. Make sure as you're entering, practice those dolphin dives as well. With the exits, depending on the environment, it might be that once you touch the ground 3 times, the slope can be quite steep and you can get running and run all the way in. Sometimes if it's a nice shallow slope all the way out, think somewhere like Tahunanui Beach in Nelson, particularly at high tide, you can dolphin dive for nearly 100 odd meters depending on where you enter the water. After you've practiced some of those skills, you might want to include some turning around some buoys and practice them going up to them, turning to the left half a dozen times, and then practice turning to the right half a dozen times. Once you've finished those skills, you can do some fitness-based work. You can do some long sustained efforts with some short rests. That's typically going to be what you would practice in an open water swim environment for that. But you can also do a few more entries and exits and increase the speed. So you're working on your sprinting ability as you're getting started so that you can practice getting into the faster bunch and drafting off them, and also getting out of the water quickly so that you can get to the bike and onto the next leg of the triathlon. So there's some options there, but typically the longer sustained efforts are the way to go. And then finishing with a cool down. You may remember, Tanya, that's pretty much the sequence we used for that swim in Lake Canary back in the summer. All right, so a lot of people will talk about optimizing technique and breathing for open water performance. Some coaches will recommend having a wider, more stable arm stroke. I don't. In pool swimming, to be a fast swimmer, you need to be smooth, you need to be narrow, and you need to be hydrodynamic. Those three things don't change when you get into the open water. If the conditions are choppy and are harder, you still want to be smooth, narrow, and hydrodynamic. If you're trying to swim through the waves, you need to be smooth, you need to be narrow, you need to be hydrodynamic. It might be harder to be smooth because the wave might catch your arm during the recovery phase. It might be hard to be narrow, but you want to be narrow. And these positions will create that hydrodynamic situation. And hydrodynamic is just the water equivalent of aerodynamic. So smooth, piercing through that water like a torpedo. The thing that will change is your breathing. You still want to be breathing regularly, but as I touched on before, instead of, or if you can breathe bilaterally and the conditions allow that, do that. But if the conditions are not optimal, you're swimming across and the waves are coming from the left hand or the right hand side, you will need to breathe on the opposite side and be capable of doing that. If you normally breathe every 3 strokes, it might mean that you end up breathing every 4 strokes or every 2 strokes to account for that. So you're constantly breathing on the same side. Any questions? We'll go through things. I know, Jason, you were first, but we'll just go left to right on my screen. Tanya, you're on the left-hand edge of my screen. Any questions from you?
When we swam together that time, in Lake Kinedo, um, and you said to me, stay on my feet. I
Yep.
couldn't I couldn't stay on them because it was like a freaking washing machine. Like, how do you, is it just practice that will get you through? Like, it was just like this, whirring of white. And I was like quite
Yep.
disorientated and kind of had kept having to
So,
look up to work out even where I was. I guess trusting the person in front, like when you're on a bike, is
yeah. So
part of it as well. Um, but yeah, I found it real. I don't even know what my question is, but
that's
yeah,
right. You've given me a topic to talk about. So there are two things there, and the PowerPoint's just opened on my desktop finally. Um, the first thing, there was poor pace judgment on the coach's behalf. I wasn't up to speed, literally, with where your ability was, and so I was swimming a little bit too fast.
mm,
My plan was to swim so that you could stay with me.
mm,
If you're in the bubbles, you are close enough. That's
right.
the key thing. So if
Okay.
you're in, shall we say, some whitewash, it's not whitewash from waves, but the
Yep.
bubbles from the propulsion of kicking from the feet, you
Mm,
are in the right place. You're nice and close.
yep. Okay.
If you're out of that whitewash, then you are too far back.
Yep. All right.
So that's the key thing. If you're seeing those bubbles, you know you're in the right place.
Mm, okay. Yeah, the frustrating thing, like when you're actually in an event, is finding like you sit on someone's feet and then they're too slow and you kind of bang into them. And so then you've got to get round them and then you find someone else's feet. And then, sometimes I just like, oh, I can't be bothered with that. I just want to do my own thing because it's quite hard trying to figure out who's going to be either at your pace or just a bit faster for you to hang on to, eh?
Absolutely. And a
Hmm.
lot of that will come down from knowing your competition. But if you're
Yeah.
going traveling somewhere and at an event and you don't really know many people there,
Mm.
then you're not going to know who is
Yeah.
going to be the best person. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're in a more local event and you know a large number of the competitors and you
Yeah.
swim at the pool with a large number of them, you know who's about your same ability.
Yeah.
You don't want to choose someone about your ability. You want to choose someone
Just a
just that
bit.
little bit quicker
Yeah. Yeah.
and hang on their feet.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool boy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Jason,
No, no questions from me, thanks.
all right, we'll move on to Jess.
I was gonna say if somebody was training for a triathlon or for open water swimming, how many swims in the pool would you make them do? And then in the open water, like how much would you, how would you split the training between both the pool and the open water to get used to it?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's going to vary from person to person. There is no easy answer for this. Um, it's going to depend on what their ability is, what their experience is, how well experienced they are in the open water, and what locations they've got easily for them to access for their open water swimming. So someone in Dunedin, they're going to have a shorter open water swimming season compared to someone up in Northland where the environment's going to be a lot better. Someone in living in Te Araha, for example, doesn't have access to fantastic open water swimming without a significant drive. Well, without a drive. It's not necessarily a significant drive, but you've got to travel to get to that environment. Whereas Dunedin, it's basically right on your doorstep. But swimming in October in Dunedin is not pleasant's the wrong word. It's a short-lived, cold experience, whereas sort of the open water season in Dunedin's really December to February at a bit of a stretch. Although they do have had races as late as April in Dunedin. The North Island's a lot more pleasant for open water swimming throughout the season. If I use Wellington as that example, um, typically Labor Day through to Easter is good in Wellington, and the further north you go, the earlier you can start your open water season before Labor Day. If we put that in a North American context, California, from the New Zealand perspective, we think it's beaches, sunny environment, but you've got cold Pacific currents that are coming down from up north. So it's not exactly the best open water swimming year round that we might think it is. So each each location or each person and where they reside is going to be key for that. An absolute beginner, I'd want them to build their fitness predominantly in the pool. Without having the fitness built in the pool, they're not going to have any capability in the open water. As with that last slide, we're trying to hone that technique because we're not changing that technique apart from maybe which side we're breathing on from the pool to the open water. So getting that base built predominantly with pool-based swimming is going to be key for someone who's an absolute beginner with a little bit of an exposure so they've got some confidence prior to their event. Whereas a higher end, very experienced athlete that's got fantastic access to open water swimming, I'd be getting them to do it once a week for that skill side of things. And because they're a reasonably experienced athlete and they're training multiple swim sessions a week, the other 2 or 3 sessions per week would be pool based. So I can't give you a definitive answer, but I'm giving you sort of a range to show when and how. So for you, if you're training for a triathlon down in Dunedin, there'd be a lot less open water swimming than someone further north. Did that sort of cover what you're after?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Anything else before we move on to James?
No, no, thank you.
Awesome. All right, James, thanks for the topic as well. Fantastic topic. And it's nice time to get the information out there for everyone before it's too early to start open water swimming.
Yeah, you're welcome. Although to be fair, the topic was swimming, like period, full stop.
Oh, sorry,
This
misinterpreted
was intense, bro. I'm like,
that.
man, if I thought I was a beginner before connecting up with you fellas, now I'm like, oh, okay, cool as. But now Jess asked my question, and now I get that. I suspect I'll be in the pool for a while, eh? Which is
Yeah,
fine for me.
and we'll get you over to Ohope Beach and get some open water practice in later on, sort of into October prior to Iron Mouldy.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, perfect. I'll open it up to any general questions on any training or racing related topics. Anyone's got any pressing questions? Oh, everyone's hands, well, not everyone's hands are going up there. So we'll just go left to right again. Tanya, you can jump in ahead of Jason.
Okay, it's not a party, it's not a question, it's more a comment. One of the best things that I did last season that I've never done before, but I did last season was I did some open water swim events. So I've never done an open water swim event. I've always either just done a triathlon or I don't know, whatever, a run or, but I've never actually done a pure swim event. And I reckon that really improved my swimming and my confidence in the water, and my navigation and getting around buoys, although I haven't tried that fancy backstroke thing. God, I can imagine me ending up like in the middle of there she goes, she's still backstroking. But yeah,
Just
anyway,
one stroke. That's all you
I
do.
might
One
practice
stroke.
that one. I'll practice that one. But yeah, I just if anyone's got open water events near them, that is just that. And it's far less taxing because you're just going to do an open water swim. It's still an event and, all the hype and adrenaline, but you're not swim, bike, run, so you're not knackered at the end of it. It's just almost like a training session. Yeah, I just thought it was good. So sorry, no question, just a comment.
No, and you're 100% right. And there's a number of really good swim series around the country. I'm not sure who's sponsoring it this season, but at previous years it's been Banana Boat, Sunscreen, and State Insurance have sponsored the Ocean Swim Series. There's about a dozen, 10 to a dozen events from one end of the country almost to the other. And they have a range of distances from short 2 to 500 meters at the short end, one about a K, one about two and a bit Ks, and then one 3.5, 4 Ks. There's also some really good open water events in Karapiro as well, with up to 10-kilometer swim events. It's been a few moons since I've been up there and done that. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. It's just nice fresh water. You've got these nice straight lines from all the little buoys for the rowing regattas, and it was beautiful. Wellington, well, there's also some really good swim run series as well. So you don't need to worry about the bike. It's on a Thursday evening, splash and dash. You get in, swim 750, 1,500 meters, get out, and then sprint 3 or 4 Ks. They're fantastic events, and often a weeknight after work. Nelson has got the Thursday night and the Sunday morning series for open water swimming as well. Out in Littleton Harbour, in Canterbury, there's a great series out there. It's been a few moons since I've turned up at any of theirs, but they're just nice and low key. Courses laid out, and you get a time. They don't cost much to enter. So yeah, plenty of from those laid back after work events right through to the professional state insurance or banana boat sunscreen series. So yeah, some fantastic options and fantastic point there, Tanya. Moving along, Jason.
First of all, just to allay some confusion, were you guys talking about swimming for fun? Like, is that a thing?
Yes, yes, we were.
All right.
I
Unlike
used
that
to
swim session we
competitive
did in
swim, so
Hamner.
No, no, mine's more survival than anything else. Um, I guess that for me, the change between pool and open water is probably the addition of a wetty. Is there any difference in technique or anything that you'd recommend doing differently just to make that transition easier? Because I've found a couple of open water swims. I don't know whether it's to do with the wetty or the event or something like that. Um, I tend to, I guess my breathing gets shallower just from that beginning and get a little bit hypoxic um, at the get-go, and then I've got to sort of settle down and begin swimming again, if that makes sense. But is there any technique changes or anything just between the wetsuit and normal togs?
The short answer is no, there's not. We still want those same key principles applied. The reality is the wetsuit provides some restriction on our breathing, just the compression of it. We want that wetsuit nice and tight. We don't want water getting in there. We don't want it to be a parachute that we're dragging through the water. So for those reasons, we want a nice, snug fit. Um, good wetsuit provides two key areas. The primary one is the buoyancy. The higher we sit in the water, the less drag we create. Now, different brands of wetsuits and different models of wetsuits, the rubber used is more hydrodynamic and hydrophilic, and so the water moves off its surface a lot easier and quicker. But at the end of the day, the higher you sit in the water, that is going to be the big rock that's going to help you improve your swimming, as opposed to the small rocks that are that 1% improvement from the type of rubber utilized within the wetsuit. The wetsuit also provides an element of warmth. Although the South Island swimmers will probably disagree that the cold immersion still has that element of shock with it. So you do need to focus on your breathing, calming down, and going through the normal strategies to avoid anxiety. And so we can use what I sort of covered, I think it was last week or the week before, talking about pre-race nerves and anxiety. The skill sets from that we can employ once we're in the water, focusing on our breathing, relaxing into things. So then we can focus on our actual swimming, getting that oxygen into our lungs and out to the working muscles, as opposed to going into a full-on panic attack. And I know some of the people on the call here tonight have had panic attacks leading into once you're in the water, which is not a good place to be. So have that composure and focus on that breathing. Yes, the cold or the shock of the cold water immersion when you first get in can be there. And that's why I encourage people to get into the water a good 10 minutes before the event so you can get used to the water, you can acclimatize to that temperature, and be ready for it when the race starts, as opposed to getting in 30 seconds before the gun goes off, and the gun goes off whilst you're trying to go through and recompose yourself.
Just a footnote about the wetsuit snugness. I discovered that my wetsuit shrunk.
That happens every winter.
I was going to
And
say you're not the only one,
Ray,
Tanya, but
Ray has actually witnessed the shrunken wetsuit because he's tried to get me into the damn thing. Now, any of you that are on Triathlon Marketplace will notice I've got the shrunk wetsuit for sale at the moment. I bought a new one last season. Oh my goodness. Now I know what snug means as opposed to constricting me so I was unable to breathe. So yeah, sometimes we do need to just make sure that it's a snug fit and not stopping the blood from flowing to all our different, parts of our body. So just a footnote there, Ray.
yep. But we did get you into the wetsuit and we didn't break
Oh,
the. So
eventually. God.
did that cover your question, Jason?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Moving on to you, Jess.
Mine's not swimming related.
That's fine.
Um, but I was just gonna ask if you had any advice. I'm worried that I might be getting jumper's runner's knee in my left knee because it's been a little bit sore here and there when I'm running. And so I don't know if you had any advice for stopping that from getting any worse.
Short answer will be stretching, making sure you're doing plenty of stretching on the muscles around the joint. I'll have a chat to you offline and get the full details of what's going on there. And so I can give you some specific advice. It might be that we just need some prehab work to mitigate that from getting any worse.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. James, any general questions from you?
Nah, swimming for me. So I've been told apparently that my legs like down when I swim.
That
I've checked out a couple of YouTubes, but what would you suggest I either be mindful of or focus on?
So, firstly, that's a very common situation, even for experienced swimmers that might not have the world's greatest technique. So, working on that technique is going to be the key. You're wanting your body position to be as horizontal as possible. If your legs are dragging down, everything below the water is catching on the water and dragging it. So if you've only got 2 inches of your body below the water, that's only 2 inches of drag. Whereas if your legs are hanging a foot and a half down below the water, that's a lot more drag. So we wanted to try and balance that seesaw up. Now, if you imagine a T from shoulder to shoulder and straight down your spine, pushing that T down into the water, pushing those shoulders down, and focusing on that will lift your legs up. What you want though is your eyes facing straight down to the bottom of the pool, because if you swim with your head tilted up, that's going to drop the legs down. So you're wanting to just have your head naturally aligned on your shoulders, but horizontally looking straight down below you. So those are the two key tips: pushing down on that T, pushing it down into the water, and having the head naturally aligned so your eyes are looking straight down below you, not forward.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. What does push down on a T mean? Like, what actually am I doing?
So if you imagine the T from one shoulder to the
Okay.
shoulder and down through the spine to make the
Yeah, yeah,
T shape, we're going
yeah.
to push that down into the water. So rather than just lying on the water, we're actually going to actively try and lower that into the water to lift the legs will come up naturally as a result of pushing down on that. If you imagine just a normal buoy out in the water marking a boat docking position, if you push down on that, you'll feel the resistance of it wanting to push back up to the surface. So we're trying to utilize that because our lungs are like a buoy. We push down on that, something's going to come up, and the legs are going to be the easiest thing to float up if we're pushing down on our chest. Does that make sense, or if I
I'll give
confuse
it a
things, you
go.
can hear?
I'll give it a go and I'll get back to you. I'm still not getting what pushing means, but I'll give it a go and get back to you.
Yeah. So you're not. I'm just trying to think
All
how
good.
I word this better.
All good.
Um,
Trust me, no matter what you say, I'm still not going to get it until I try it and then I'll
yep.
come.
Yeah. No worries. We'll look forward to hearing back next call.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Before we wrap up, has anyone got any other questions that have sprung up or have come to mind as a result of other people's questions? So we'll wrap things up in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to have a guest presenter come on and have a chat to us. They're going to do a bit of a series of a few topics over the coming months, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, have a fantastic week of training, team. Ka kite anō. I look forward to chatting with you all again soon.
Kapai. Thank
Go,
you.
Kitty.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
Leave.